Hi, I'm Kaylee, and today I'm going to tell you about all the books that I read in March. Can't believe March is over. Like, it just went by in this big blur, and all of a sudden, wait, it's April? Wait, it's Easter? Wait, what's going on? This whole year is just like whoosh. In March, I read 50 books. 50, count them. Not really sure how that happened, but yeah, that's what it was. Before we get into the 50 books that I read, I want to reach back here to our Booktuber Shoutout bookish box, and we're going to randomly pick somebody and we're going to shout out their channel today. Aha! One of my favorite booktubers, Books Like Whoa. Her channel will be linked up above someplace and down below in the description box, so make sure to subscribe to her. And if you are not already, go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you want to hear about all the reading that I've been doing. Okay, 50 books is quite a chunk of reading. Let's break it down. I read 4 classics in March. I read 1 classic poetry, 1 children's classic, 1 classic mystery, well, sort of like a modern classic mystery, and 1 classic manga. I read 1 YA dystopian, 1 fantasy, 3 nonfiction, 1 children's chapter book, 5 children's nonfiction, and 35 children's picture books. Aha! That's why the number is so big, all the way up to 50, because 35 of those were little picture books. So first of all, the classic poetry that I read was poems by Kerr, Ellis, and Acton Bell. This is Charlotte and Emily and Anne Bronte's poetry. Unfortunately, I got 64% of the way through this book and I decided to DNF it. About 90% of the poems are about death. They are so gloomy and full of suffering and depression. It's all just despair and darkness, and it was making me depressed, and I really just had to DNF it. The poetry is good. Some of them are almost genius. There were several poems that really touched my heart. The Brontes certainly have a way with words, and some of their phrases are just so beautifully crafted. These poems are very emotional and wild and raging like a storm. If you want to see what some of my favorite poems were and a few of my favorite lines out of those poems, you can follow the link down below to my Goodreads for a more detailed review. I gave this poetry 4 out of 5 stars. I think if the subject material had just not been so depressing, it would have been 5 stars. I do love the Brontes, but I couldn't with the poetry anymore. I just couldn't. The children's classic that I read was Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm by Kate Douglas Wiggin. Rebecca leaves her home at Sunnybrook Farm to go and live with her 2 maiden aunts, Miranda and Jane. And with a lot of little brothers and sisters at home, Rebecca wants to get a good education so that she can grow up and start to make money and be successful so that she can support her large family, all her siblings. But her Aunt Miranda is terribly strict with her. And Rebecca gets into trouble and gets into mischief, and she tries to find consolation with her more compassionate Aunt Jane. I have always loved this sweet little story about a very intelligent little girl growing up in the backwoods of nowhere. Rebecca has this imagination and cleverness far beyond anybody else in the tiny little village where she lives. But she still learns to appreciate the kindness and the generosity of her neighbors. The only thing I don't particularly like is the end. It is pretty abrupt, and there are a lot of loose ends that are never really resolved. It definitely gives you clues as to what's going to happen next, but those things are just kind of left up to your imagination. I really love Rebecca's character, and if you like stories like Anne of Green Gables, then you will probably like Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I read a modern classic mystery, Agatha Christie's Black Coffee. This is actually a novelization by Charles Osborne of the play Black Coffee. This is a Hercule Poirot novel, and he is my favorite detective. I think I would have enjoyed this a lot more if I had just read the play. I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars, and I have given it a much more in-depth review in another video, and I'll link that down below in the description. I read Matched by Ali Condi. This is a YA dystopian about Cassia. She is excited for the benevolent government to choose a match for her. This is the man that she will one day marry, and she is matched with her childhood best friend. But when she looks at the match information, she briefly sees the face of another boy she knows. And she starts to bend the rules a little and then break them. I really loved the dystopian setting in this book, the seemingly benevolent government who watches your every move. And I really loved Cassia's character development. She has this internal struggle where she begins to question her world. I liked the subtle family dynamics with Cassia's relationship with her parents and with her brother. However, the romance was boring. I did not feel any tension or special connections between any of the romantic relationships. The only excitement between those characters was when they had the excitement of breaking the rules together. The excitement was all rebelling against the system. There was no romantic excitement there. I don't mind a love triangle as long as all the characters are well-rounded and deep and complex and really well-developed. But both of the boys were just boring and really flat. And the plot is slow. Really slow. I feel like the book just could have been condensed way down. Overall, there are a lot of things that I enjoyed about this book. I ended up giving it 3 stars. If, like me, you are a character-driven reader, then you would probably like Cassia's character. However, because the plot is so slow and the romance was just so boring, I'm not going to be continuing with the rest of this trilogy. I read one fantasy, and it was Redwall. I read the 18th book in the Redwall series, which is Rhulain. I adore Redwall books, and I'm getting really close to the end of the series, and so I don't know, that makes it more meaningful for me, I guess. Like, there's not that many more stories that are going to be new stories before you're going to have to start rereading, and it just makes it like, it makes it so much more, I don't know. In this one, the good beasts of Redwall rescue an injured bird, and that sets them on a quest to discover everything they can about the ancient legend of the High Queen Rhulain. Meanwhile, on an island far away, the otters are enslaved to the evil wildcats, and only the clever outlaw Shellhound can outwit their ruthless wildcat leader. And caught in the middle of these adventures is the young otter maid, Tyria. She dreams of Martin the warrior, and he guides her on her adventures to find her true destiny. What an absolute delight. This book has everything that I love about Redwall. The ravenous hares, the wise old scribe, the adorable moles and the shrews, and of course brave warriors who are ready to risk everything to protect all good beasts. As with all Redwall books, I have to make sure to have a stash of snacks set aside because they are always eating such good food in these books. They have massive feasts and parties, and even a simple breakfast will make your mouth water with all these descriptions of the pastries and the fruit pies and the cordials. Oh my gosh, my mouth is watering right now just thinking about it. I really loved Tyria's character. She's very well developed. She has a lot of great character development. There are so many good supporting characters in this book too that they kind of steal the show. Shellhound is one of my favorites. He has such a complex and deep character, and I just love him. I was laughing and giggling at the hares and the banter between the shrews. It's just wonderful. It gives so much depth to all these different cultures. The action and the pacing are really excellent in this book. The plot is always moving forward, but there are also scenes that kind of take the time to show emotional connections between our characters. It really builds up the emotional components in the story, so when you get to a big battle, You really care what happens to the characters. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. This is everything that I love about Redwall. All of the next books are books that I received for free from a publisher in exchange for a free and honest review. I also read a classic manga of Frankenstein. I thought the artwork did such a wonderful job of showing the darkness and the gothic melodrama of the story. There are a lot of scenes where the art uses shadows to kind of show the emotions and the tension in the characters. Most of the dialogue is taken directly from the book, and it really does a good job of condensing this classic into a manga form without losing kind of the cohesiveness of the story and just the general flavor of that story. I really enjoyed revisiting this classic in manga form, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read a children's chapter book, The Saddest Kitten, about a little kitten who is adopted, but there is an older cat in the house, and those two cats do not get along. I read some nonfiction. I read Science and Me, inspired by the discoveries of the Nobel Prize laureates in physics, chemistry, and medicine. This gives short biographies of people who have won the Nobel Prize and the obstacles that they had to overcome to achieve their dream. I read Take Me on Vacation and Take Me Home. These are activity journals for children, and they are so fun and cute. I read Marvelous Machines, a magic lens book, and it has a little red lens that you can take out of the book and then use that to look through some of the 3D pictures. I read Sounds of the Sky and Sounds of the Wild, which have buttons that you can push to hear a recording of animal sounds. I read Ultimate Earth, Oceans and Seas. This one has little lift the flap information and different cool stuff. And I read Amazing Treasures, 100+ objects and places that will boggle your mind. And my mind was boggled. All the next books are the picture books, and I've divided them up by my star rating. So first of all, the ones that got 5 stars. Z Grows a Tree, Ventanas, Where Oh Where is Barnaby Bear, Spin a Scarf of Sunshine, The Colorless Chameleon, Oneosaurus, Twosaurus, Tyronosaurus Dreams, The Pocket Chaotic, Sunday Rain, This Is Your World, Grandfather Bowhead, Tell Me a Story, Yawn, El Increíble Barco del Capitán Marco, Tormenta de Pimienta, Nothing Scares Spider, and Looking for Sleep. The next books are ones that I gave 4 stars. La Selva de Zonia, Papi and Mommy, Mindy and the Goose No One Else Could See, Baby Moses in a Basket, Anita and the Dragons, Evie and the Strawberry Surprise, I Really Need to Pee, The Bear in the Boat, and The Problem with Pierre. And now the 3-star books, Bruno the Beekeeper, A Honey Primer, Muddy Hands, Sudsy Hands, Now That Night is Near, In the Land of the Fairies, Bartholomew and the Morning Monsters. And then I have 2 books that I gave 2 stars, A Teeny Tiny History of Philosophy, A Children's Introduction to the Great Thinkers of Philosophical Tradition. That's a very long title. And The Hidden Triceratops. And then 2 books that I gave 1 star, A Mother is a House and Banana Fun Bread. And those are the books that I read in March. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what is your favorite book that you read this past month. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.